I'm Camila Cuesta. I've been working at itemis since November, so I'm pretty new, and I'm doing these fireside chats so that I can get to know the rest of my team, and everybody else can get to know the rest of my team while I do that. I primarily work as a cybersecurity software engineer on Secure and also some of the customer-facing stuff. On my free time, I like to go on runs and train my cat.
My name's Jason Bianek. I've known itemis a little bit longer, since August of 2022. My main project so far has been implementing a conversion service for, so if you fill out an Excel spreadsheet with information about the system that you're designing, you can import that into Secure with this web conversion service. It's kind of replacing an earlier version that was written, it seems like, I think it was in Eclipse environment. So the new version is sort of standalone and faster. And so I was working on a domain-specific language for that to represent the XM format, to kind of make it easy for us to put templates together and sort of write software quickly and easily. In my free time, I don't have a lot of free time. I've got two kids. They're like preschool age, so they keep me pretty busy. I made like a Super Bowl betting game, not with actual money, but just all the bets that you can do around the Super Bowl. Like you can bet on like what's the coin flip going to be. You can bet on whether the national anthem is going to be over or under 2 minutes and things like that. And those questions are all like, they're very specific and they're very weird questions a lot of the time, which is really fun, but I don't want to actually like gamble money. So we all kind of like pick our answers, and then it calculates as if we had bet on the things, and you kind of get a score and things. So stuff like that, putting together random web stuff and playing around with things like that.
And also some of the customer-facing stuff.
I like it.
Cool. Okay, so you mentioned that I primarily work as a cybersecurity software engineer on Secure. And explain a little bit some of the customer-facing stuff.
What is the converter?
Yeah, so it's a web service. We're kind of replacing an older version. I think was built in either Eclipse or another sort of environment. So we're kind of making it
also
standalone.
Do some of the customer-facing stuff.
So we'll give you, if you fill in, we have an Excel template, the itemis like.
And everybody else can get to know the rest of my
this
team
Excel template that it's got a lot of the same like data fields that the real tool has, but it's all it's just Excel. And so you take that, and then it goes into this web service that we are
cybersecurity
sort of
software
actively
engineer
developing,
on
and you can do this from
Secure,
within the tool as well. It'll just
and also do
forward
some
file basically off to
customer-facing
the web to be converted. And then so we're running a service that it takes an Excel file, reads through all the data, and grabs the added definitions, it grabs the functions and whatever you filled in that Excel template, and then it converts it into XAML, which is the format that the Secure uses, that we're working on making it an open XAML as sort of an interchangeable open format for people to implement their own tools, so we can interoperate even if you're not using itemis's stuff,
and
which you should be.
But
if you're using something else, or you want to do your own analysis on it, you can sort of use this. It's an XML-based format. It's very straightforward. And you can get your data out, you can put new data in. So I've been working on as sort of like the DSL person on the project. I worked on creating a domain-specific language for our converter on top of Kotlin. Kotlin it's kind of similar to Ruby, and then it has like sort of features that make it easy to kind of make a sort of domain-specific language it's all Kotlin code, but it also looks very specialized to the things that we're doing. So all the structure of an XAML file is sort of captured in this DSL, so you can just write out code, and then the compiler will yell at you if you're doing something wrong, rather than having to run it and then see, oh, this tag is not supposed to be there. The language kind of restricts you into like, okay, you can only use this, you can only specify this thing if you're in the right place for it, and that kind of stuff.
Which saves a lot of time, I imagine.
Yeah, we're using it even internally. That's something that other people probably aren't going to see, but we're using a DSL for ourselves. So
I guess the focus of our chat today is asking about DSL and MPS. So for those who don't know what that is, DSL is a domain-specific language, while MPS stands for Meta Programming System.
I think something like that. We should probably look that up. MPS. It's either meta programming system. Okay, that's what.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to know. It's MPS. It's just MPS. Yeah. So a domain-specific language is it's a way of sort of capturing data, especially for like domain experts that are not necessarily programmers. So you've got sort of like a general purpose programming language is going to have all the sort of standard programming stuff. If you tailor sort of you have like a little mini language that isn't necessarily for programming. Could be for capturing data, or it could be just like heavily devoted to one's very specific domains. That's called a domain-specific language. And the advantage is that you can kind of, if you can create a language with the help of the domain experts who know sort of what the concepts that they need to capture. And then once you've implemented the language for them, you can sort of let them go for it. You don't have to help them with, sort of programming details and things like that. They can sort of work in this language at the level that they are experts in. And then because it's all structured and formalized, you can take that data and do analysis on it. You can check for correctness. I was just actually just starting some sort of MPS tutorial things, and one of the tutorials we're looking at is a language for chemical equations. So in the sort of chemistry domain, creating a language where you can write out formulas, and then it can have checks to see, okay, have you balanced this equation? Do you have the same number of carbon atoms that you did before and after? Because like this, you're not supposed to be able to just create and destroy atoms at will, things like that. So it can because it's sort of structured and very specific to this one domain, you can build in checks and analysis and verification and all that stuff. That's kind of the general idea behind like why would you want a domain-specific language. And then MPS in particular is sort of a workbench or a framework for developing domain-specific languages. So it's kind of its own. It's a language that you can build languages in. It's kind of meta and abstract in that way. But one of the advantages of MPS is that you can be a little more flexible. It's not just text. So normally, like especially in programming, you write out a text file with your program in it, and then it gets read by a compiler or interpreter and sort of turned into something more abstract, like a syntax tree and things like that. So instead of the characters FUNCION function, it's going to sort of grab that idea and represent it in as a function sort of internally. And MPS is kind of like you're kind of working in that internal world right away. So you can have things like graphical tables. You're not restricted to sort of like what can you represent in text. You can have tables, you can have arrows and diagrams and things, and those all, they can help make things easier for sort of non-programmers, because it's easier to say like, okay, this is the syntax for how you describe a table. You can just say, this is a table, fill it in. And it's a little more graphical. It's a little more like using something like Excel or Visio or something like that. But then behind the scenes, it's being turned into a very structured tree. And then the people who made the domain-specific language can build in checks and analysis and references and things like that. Yeah, so that's kind of the background on DSLs and MPS. It's kind of generally what they are. And so yeah, and Secure, the tool that the two of us have done most of our work sort of around, is built on top of MPS. So we've as a company, not you and I specifically maybe, but we have sort of made this, and the domain there is ISO 21434 and threat analysis and all that stuff. So there's a bunch of tools that we've built specifically for these things, and it makes it easy to sort of go through and capture all those risks and items and functions and data and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really cool actually that it allows for so much flexibility. I'm still navigating my way with MPS and learning with it. So I don't have too much to say on that end. But I do wonder if you can say a little bit more on how DSL relates to itemis.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of expertise in the company around languages. I think there's certainly itemis had a big role in Xtext, which is sort of is a tool for creating languages. It's a little more traditional. It's kind of the traditional write a text file and then have a grammar for the text file, and then Xtext sort of generates a lot of the things for you in terms of it creates a parser, it creates a lexer, things like all the sort of traditional programming things. So making a domain-specific language in Xtext is fairly straightforward. You just specify your grammar, specify what types go where and how it maps into it's heavily based on the Eclipse framework, so it's sort of built on top of some Eclipse modeling concepts and allows you to generate models. I think basically for free. You make your grammar and then it builds a lot of stuff for you. So there's a lot of that expertise there. I think we are quick to sort of reach for let's create a language for this as a solution to problems, because it offers a lot of advantages, sort of capturing ideas, capturing sort of the structure of the problem, and capturing some of the sort of abstract relations between concepts. You can do that in a language, and then when you want to get specific, then you're actually writing in the language, and you're saying, okay, well, for this car, this is what the system is. This is how it connects to this other thing, and you've kind of made it's sort of like what I was talking about before with DSLs. You kind of put it all at the level of the experts. So the experts don't have to worry about, how's this implemented. They don't have to worry about syntax or grammar or trees or anything like that. They can just say, okay, I see a box for filling in the item definition. I'm going to fill in the box, and then there it is. And behind the scenes, it's been turned into whatever object of whatever type it needs to be, and then you can refer to it. The system knows okay, this is one of my items that I have. So when I'm referring to it somewhere else, I can just sort of start typing the name of it, and then it can find that reference and make that connection. And all the users really doing is saying yeah, well, I need to refer to an item here, so I'm going to type the name of my item, and that's kind of it. So I think it allows people to be experts in each of their things. So we're writing software, so we have a lot of expertise in the software level and sort of exposing these things to users in the form of it's a language. The user might not think of it as a language, but that's sort of what it is internally. they don't say oh, this is just I'm filling in this table. They don't have to worry about is this table a language, and how is it defined and implemented. So the experts can fill in things that they know, and then we as developers can sort of enable them to do that via languages.
Okay. So would you say that using DSLs kind of smooths out the learning curve that would be otherwise if we were to rely on some other language?
Yeah, I think so. It sort of removes some of the complexity that doesn't have to be there. So, you can do things like, this was common, especially, 10, 15 years ago, in the heyday of Ruby, as the programming language Ruby. It's Ruby is a very cool and flexible language, and you can do things like kind of make DSLs within Ruby. So you can, it's all sort of Ruby syntax, but you're writing it such that it's, it reads, you kind of simplify things and abstract things away. And those are very cool. And, we actually, we do some of that at itemis too, but it's sort of it's built within this sort of larger, more complex environment. So you kind of have to know, if you have a syntax error, it's because you're not writing valid Ruby code, not necessarily valid, whatever your DSL is named. So with MPS, it's a little more purpose built for no, this is just a domain specific language. It's not inside of it. It's not kind of built on top of another general purpose program.
It's kind of like MPS is kind of like the buffer between those. So MPS is built on top of the IntelliJ.
I believe so. Yeah, it's certainly using a lot of the same library. It looks very similar. So I think it's built on top of a lot of the same things, but it's sort of building. There's sort of base level that's kind of like Java essentially with some extensions to it. But then you can also, you can use that base layer to build other languages, and a language can include elements from another language. It can refer to things from another language. It's sort of a lot of different things. You can kind of compose them all together in various ways. At our level, when we're writing secure, we're sort of working in that layer. The JetBrains folks are writing the tools that we use to make those languages. We're using those tools to write our own languages, which the experts use. So it's languages all the way down, basically. And so everyone, but everyone can sort of work at the level that makes sense for them. They're writing an IDE, we're writing a tool for automotive and other applications, and then other people are using that tool to capture the things that they're experts in.
And you've used MPS before coming to itemis?
I hadn't used MPS. I'd used Xtext, which is it's similar in some ways. Yeah, it's also sort of an itemis. It's an open source project, but I think itemis had a major role in has a major role in maintaining it. So I was very familiar with that. That was my previous job. Just happened to use that, and so it was kind of fun to come to itemis and be like, oh wait, hang on, they kind of made this tool that I've used a bunch. So I actually hadn't used MPS at all, but it was cool to sort of like pick up on it and see like, oh, this is doing some wild things in terms of just like the things that you can do with it is pretty incredible.
Love it. One of your fun facts was other projects that you have. I'm wondering if you have any current or upcoming personal goals or projects to expand your knowledge with MPS, aside from stuff that's with itemis.
I don't know if there's a good personal project for MPS. Maybe one will come to me as I'm kind of starting the workshop and getting my hands a little dirty. I've done a lot of reading of our own the secure source code, and so I've been poking around in there to sort of get this conversion project done. But it's a very specific tool, and I don't know a lot of people in my personal life who are like, I'm an expert in this particular domain, and I need to like I don't know if I think of something, maybe I will, but most of my projects, my sort of personal projects, have been a little more casual, I suppose. But I'll keep an eye out. Maybe there'll be some sort of amazing DSL that I can write just for my friends and family.
Do you have any like favorite shortcuts or resources that you've encountered for using MPS?
I think the biggest tip that I've picked up is basically using the autocomplete a lot. So one of the advantages and disadvantages of MPS is that like things can be very abstracted and very you're working at a little bit of a remove. When you're writing a program, you're just writing text. And the text is what it is. It's very straightforward. Like it's going to be parsed and abstracted away and things like that. But as you're writing it, it's really just just writing text in a text editor. Versus MPS is a little more, in a way you're like editing an abstract syntax tree through an interface, and it's like a little more. It's got its advantages, but you're at a little bit more of a remove. You can't just like type characters and have it know exactly what you're doing necessarily. So the autocomplete is very good because it gives you an idea of like, here's what the tool thinks is available to you at this point, and here's the things that you can insert. And I think it's the only way to insert certain things. Like I don't want to just like type these characters. I want to have this concept or like a reference to this other thing. And so you kind of have to work with MPS to make sure that you're both on the same page of like, I'm not just trying to type the name of this thing in text. I actually want to refer to this thing. And the autocomplete features can help you with that because it gives you MPS knows what it's expecting there, and if you do autocomplete, you can see what it gives you some insight into what the tool thinks is going on, and hopefully between the two of you, you can work together to figure out how to represent the thing you're looking for.
Is that where we get our shortcut for our secure tool?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same interface, just sort of one level down. Where like you're using a language, we're using a language to write that language, and then there's another language underneath that you're writing in too. So it's a lot of the same things. Like that control space behavior in secure is when you're writing secure, you're also using that same thing to actually make the the interfaces and editors and languages and stuff. It helps for everyone to just hit that button and see what it thinks is available to you.
For sure. I didn't know that that's where it came from. So.
Yeah, it's extended, I think, with secure. Like they've added things to it, and I think, but yeah, it's the same functionality. It's MPS in both instances, providing a lot of that.
Okay, all right, and this is just more broadly in automotive cybersecurity. Is there anything else that you've been exploring within it that has caught your eye recently?
Nothing comes to mind immediately. I know that there's a lot of sort of stuff going on, or especially around like self-driving, figuring out sort of how to get that all working properly. Some of it's security, some of it's just sort of like how do you implement this in a way that it's safe. So I kind of keep an eye on that. I think I've got a healthy distrust of some of those systems because it's like this is very cool, but also it's like it's still early days, and it's very important to be safe when driving. So it's interesting, and there's some very cool stuff going on, but it's also kind of like, ooh, we got to be careful about this stuff too. So that's kind of where I am at a lot of that stuff. But yeah, then setting aside these sort of like accidental mistakes and mishaps, like someone intentionally coming after your car to like do something malicious is obviously very important. So yeah, I don't know if I have anything specific about cybersecurity though to bring up. That's close to your domain, I suppose.
I'm still waiting on the car hackers handbook. So
Oh yeah, that should be fun. I'm very excited. They could be a preview for all our subscribers and fans, our thousands and thousands. Yeah,
we're getting some of those videos up.
I'm excited to see those sort of how to hack a car kind of stuff. I'll watch those at least.
Well, thank you, Jason. I think this was a really good talk.
Yeah, this is fun. All right. Well, it was great to talk to you. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, you too.